Hello guys, welcome to the Slurship YouTube channel. Today in our biology series, we're talking about respiration. Or basically, we're talking about more on internal respiration, which is also called cellular respiration. Check the link in this video to see the video on external respiration, which you have to watch before you can actually understand the internal respiration. So basically, before the cell have their oxygen for oxidation, external respiration has to take place because this is the actual medium that transfers this oxygen inside the cell. So basically in animals, they have their different respiratory structures. Like in mammals, you have the lungs, in fishes, you have the gills, in spiders, you have the lung books, in some unicellular organisms, you have the body surface. Okay, so from here, they push in the oxygen inside the cell. Then in plants, you have the stomata, okay, which is being found in between the guard cells. So this is stomata pore. Then these are the guard cell. Basically, this stomata is found in the leaves of plants. Then also you have the lenticels, which is found in the stems of these plants. So these respiratory structures, they transfer this oxygen inside the cell for this second phase to occur, which is what? The cellular respiration. Because this is where ideally the oxidation of these food molecules occur to give us energy in the form of ATP. Cellular respiration occurs in two major phases. You have stage 1 and you have stage 2. Basically, also in these cells, there are some organelles that have this specialized function for this cellular respiration. And this cell, part of the cell, is basically the cytoplasm and the mitochondria. So the cytoplasm and the mitochondria, they are chiefly involved in cellular respiration in these cells. So what do we mean by cellular respiration? This is the oxidation of food molecules in the cells of living organisms to provide energy for metabolic activities, provide energy for the body functions also. So nice. So like I told you, the cellular respiration has two major stages. You have stage 1 and you have stage 2. In stage 1, what actually happens is glycolysis. Like I told you before, the equation of respiration is glucose plus oxygen, which will give you carbon dioxide plus water plus energy. So the main equation is C6H12O6 plus 6O2. We give you 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus ATP, 38 ATP. So this is the equation of respiration. Nice. So the stage 1 in cellular respiration is glycolysis. What happens here is that this glucose, because this is glucose molecule, this glucose is broken down to 3-carbon pyruvic acid, otherwise called pyruvate. So the first thing that occurs in cellular respiration is this glycolysis. So our glucose is phosphorylated. That's adding phosphate group to it. Okay, so you phosphorylate glucose to have glucose phosphate. Nice. So this glucose phosphate, glucose is a 6-carbon molecule, a 6-carbon molecule. So this glucose phosphate is later broken down to triose phosphate. Triose means 3 carbon. So it has 2 triose phosphates, which now go down to form pyruvic acid or pyruvate. So this is the stage 1 in cellular respiration. Nice. So stage 2 in cellular respiration is dependent on the state of the body. So this state of the body, what I mean by state of the body is whether the body is aerobic or whether the body is anaerobic. Aerobic means that the body has abundance of oxygen at that particular time, while anaerobic means that the body does not have sufficient oxygen at that particular time. That's aerobic or what? Aerobic. Oxygen is here. Here we have low oxygen. So this stage 2 depends on the state of the particular cell in question. Nice. So if that particular cell in question has much of oxygen, that respiration will enter into what? Aerobic respiration. But if that particular cell in question does not have much oxygen, the respiration will enter into what? Anaerobic respiration. Nice. So let's talk about this aerobic respiration first of all. Aerobic respiration happens in the cell's mitochondria because this aerobic respiration gives us a bigger number of ATP. We get up to 30 ATP from this aerobic alone. So once you now add this 30 ATP with the 8 ATP that you get from glycolysis, we can now have 38 ATP, which I wrote here. So this second stage will give us 30 ATP, while the first step, okay, of glycolysis gave us 8 ATP. So if you add two of them, I'm going to have 38 ATP. Nice. So this second phase occurs in the mitochondria. That's why it's called the powerhouse of the cell. So first of all, the pyruvic acid or pyruvate that we got from stage 1 is going to be decarboxylated. What do I mean by decarboxylation? It means the removal of carbon group. So once you remove a carbon group from pyruvic acid, you're going to form acetic acid. So once you now have acetic acid is going to enter in the Krebs cycle. So in the Krebs cycle, acetic acid is going to combine with oxaloacetate, oxaloacetic acid. Okay, so the acetic acid will react with oxaloacetic acid to form citrate. So what happens in the Krebs cycle is that this acetic acid will enter Krebs cycle. So acetic acid will react with oxaloacetic acid. Oxaloacetic acid. So two of them is going to give you a citrate, which is a 6-carbon molecule. So this 6-carbon molecule is going to still be decarboxylated to a 5-carbon keto-glutaric acid. A 5-carbon keto-glutaric acid, because this young man, 6-carbon, was decarboxylated. So from here, he's also going to be decarboxylated again to form succinic acid. A succinic acid, which is a 4-carbon. Here is 5-carbon. From here, it was 6-carbon. It got decarboxylated to form 5-carbon here. From here, it also got decarboxylated to also form what? 4-carbon succinic acid. So this young man is going to be oxidized. So this succinic acid is going to be oxidized. That's when if you remove a hydrogen atom from it. Okay? So if you remove a hydrogen atom from it, you're going to form malic acid. Right. So malic acid is also going to be oxidized again. That's the removal of a hydrogen atom from it again. If you remove hydrogen atom from malic acid, you're going to form oxaloacetic acid. So that's this OAA here. So OAA will also react with another word, acetic acid that is entering. So the cycle continues. So this is the Krebs cycle. The Krebs cycle. So this is the last step in aerobic cellular respiration. So once you have passed from that stage 1, which is glycolysis, the cell goes to form acetic acid from pyruvic acid. So once you now get acetic acid from this pyruvic acid, this acetic acid is going to enter the Krebs cycle, where it combines with these molecules to form OAA, and the cycle continues. So this is the state of the cell in stage 2, if the cell is aerobic. So what happens if the cell is anaerobic? When the cell does not have much oxygen. So if the cell does not have much oxygen, what happens is that the pyruvic acid that we got from stage 1, so this is talking about anaerobic, that's stage 2. We just finished aerobic of stage 2. Nice. So this is the anaerobic of stage 2. Nice. So the pyruvic acid that we got from stage 1, the pyruvic acid that we got from stage 1, okay, it can go further to form ethanol plus CO2 plus 2 ATP. Ethanol plus CO2 plus 2 ATP. This is what they call the alcoholic fermentation, which you basically see in yeast cells. So yeast cells, they respire anaerobically. They convert pyruvic acid to ethanol and carbon dioxide, and also what? 2 ATP. Nice. Also, that's what they called lactic acid formation. Lactic acid formation. This is a special type of anaerobic respiration because your pyruvic acid is reduced to CO2 plus lactate plus 2 ATP. What happens here is what we call the oxygen depth. You see lactic acid formation basically in people that engage in strenuous exercises. Once you are engaged in this type of exercises, the oxygen that you take in tends to be less than the oxidation of the cell. So the cell now enters into what? Anaerobic respiration to produce this lactate. In lactic acid formation, that's what we call the oxygen depth. That means you are in depth of oxygen. Oxygen depth. You are in depth of oxygen. So what the body does is that the body shunts pyruvic acid from stage 1 into lactate and 2 ATP. But once the body now has enough oxygen, okay, maybe once you are done running and you are now panting to grab in more oxygen, once the body now have a good supply of oxygen, the body stops producing this lactate and now goes into what? Aerobic respiration. So now give you what? Plenty of 30 ATP. Nice. But if you are still in oxygen depth, the body is going to shunt pyruvic acid into CO2, lactate and what? 2 ATP. This lactate accumulation is going to cause irritation and muscle fatigue. Okay, so basically people tend to experience this as muscle cramps. Yes, you're running for a long for 5-10 minutes and you stop because your muscle is paining you and you want to take in more air. Nice. So this lactate accumulation causes lactic acidosis, which will cause irritation and muscle fatigue to that particular muscle. So nice. So this is anaerobic respiration. Nice. So as you saw in aerobic respiration, I told you that there are some reactions that hydrogen atom was lost. Okay, there are some reactions in which hydrogen atom was lost. Those reactions are reactions that had oxidations. Okay, those places that some, like when you oxidize succinic acid and malic acid, hydrogen atom was lost. So this hydrogen atom will be used to form water. Also, I told you of some steps that they will have decarbonization reaction. That's those steps in which carbon was lost. So those carbon that was lost as CO2. That is why when we oxidize glucose using oxygen that we respire, we're going to have CO2. That's from the carboxylation. Also H2O. That's H from oxidations, and also ATP. It's making sense. So guys, let's do a comparison between this anaerobic respiration and the aerobic respiration. So we have anaerobic here. We have aerobic. Okay, so before we compare two of them, you have to understand that stage one, which is glycolytic step, it occurs in the cytoplasm. While stage 2, okay, if it's aerobic, it occurs in the mitochondria because it's the powerhouse of the cell. It gives you much ATP. Why this occurs in the cytoplasm still, because it doesn't occur in the mitochondria and gives much ATP. Nice. So our first comparison is the differences between anaerobic and aerobic respiration. Number one difference is that here oxygen is not needed, but here oxygen is needed. Our second difference is that here we produce only 2 ATP, but here we provide a total of 38 ATP. Our third difference is that this occurs in the cytoplasm only, but here it occurs both in the cytoplasm and in the mitochondria. So our last difference is carbon dioxide, CO2, and lactic acid and alcohol are byproducts. But here, our two major products I have here is just CO2, carbon dioxide, and water are our major byproducts in aerobic respiration. Nice. So we have some similarities between two of them also. Some similarities between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. We have aerobic, we have anaerobic. So number one is that both produce ATP. Both produces byproducts. Example, CO2. Also, both convert glucose to pyruvic acid. So both involves some enzymes for the reactions. Nice. So this is the comparison between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. But one thing is important. The most thing that is common here is that these two steps, they provide ATP for the cell. And once you form this ATP can now provide this major energy for the body cells, because an enzyme called the ATPase enzyme can degrade this ATP to ADP and pi. So once this ATP is being degraded by this enzyme ATPase, they provide energy for the body cells to carry out this function. So by forming this ATP, our equation of respiration is now complete, okay, which is C6H12O6 plus 6O2, which will give us 6 CO2 plus 6H2O plus ATP. That's glucose plus oxygen will give us carbon dioxide plus water plus 38 ATP if it's aerobic respiration. So that's a wrap, guys. So but before we call it a day, let's solve some past questions, some live past questions to test what I've learned for the day. So these are live past questions, guys, and we'll be testing our knowledge on cellular respiration. So our first question goes like this. The anaerobic fermentation of glucose molecule yields dash. A, we have pyruvic acid and alcohol. B, we have 38 ATP molecules. C, we have water and carbon 4 oxide. While D, we have 2 ATP and alcohol. So our answer is D, 2 ATP and alcohol. Our next question goes like this. The oxidative part of the respiratory process takes place in the dash. A, we have mitochondria. B, we have ribosomes. neurons. C, we have endoplasmic reticulum. D, we have Golgi body. So answer is A, mitochondria. Like I told you before, this cellular respiration basically happens either in the mitochondria or in the cytoplasm. And in our options here, we only have mitochondria here. There's no cytoplasm. So those other organelles are not involved in respiration. So our answer is A, mitochondria. Our next question is, the opening of the stomata is controlled by the dash. A, we have presence of guard cells. B, we have decrease in solute concentration. C, we have increase in solute concentration on the guard cell. Then D, we have presence of a pore. Our answer is A, presence of a guard cell. So our next question is, during respiration, the incomplete oxidation of glucose to produce pyruvic acid is known as dash. A, we have Krebs cycle. B, we have aerobic respiration. C, we have glycolysis. And D, we have autolysis. So the answer is glycolysis, because in glycolysis, we form pyruvic acid from glucose. So that's a wrap, guys. If you have any question of any type, let me know in the comment section and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Also check the link in this video to see the link to external respiration, which you ought to also watch. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and also share it to your friends. For now, bye bye.